Celebrities live in the spotlight, but they face danger just like anyone else. In this video, we'll share 5 real stories of famous people who died in freak accidents. From strange mishaps to unexpected events, these stories show how sudden and shocking life can be, no matter who you are. It was July 29, 1980, in Studio City, California. Charles McGraw, a 66-year-old actor known for his tough guy roles in film noir and westerns, was living in a quiet home. With a career spanning over 30 years, McGraw's rugged appearance and distinctive voice made him a memorable figure in Hollywood. Despite his on-screen persona, his later years were marked by health struggles, including a degenerative hip condition that slowed him down significantly. These challenges led him to rely on the care of his friend Mildred Black, with whom he lived. On that day, McGraw stepped into his bathroom to shower. After finishing, he slipped on the wet floor while stepping out, losing his balance. Tragically, he fell through the glass shower door, and a shard of the broken glass caused a severe injury to his arm. This accident caused heavy bleeding. Given his weakened condition, McGraw was unable to recover from the injury. Mildred, hearing the crash, rushed to the bathroom and found McGraw gravely injured. She immediately called for emergency help, but the paramedics arrived too late. McGraw passed away due to the severity of his injuries. The news of his death stunned the entertainment world. McGraw, known for his resilient and commanding roles in films like The Killers in 1946, T-Men in 1947, and Roadblock in 1951, had become a symbol of strength on screen. It was hard for his fans and colleagues to reconcile his tough image with the tragic accident that ended his life. This loss underscored how vulnerable even the strongest individuals can be in unexpected circumstances. Following McGraw's death, California introduced new safety regulations for shower doors, requiring them to be made from safety glass. This measure aimed to prevent similar accidents, marking a lasting change born from the tragedy. While the law couldn't bring McGraw back, it became a reminder of the need for precautions in everyday life. McGraw's contributions to Hollywood left a significant impact. He was a leading figure in film noir, playing characters who often grappled with complex moral dilemmas. His deep voice and intense performances brought a distinctive edge to his roles. Beyond noir, McGraw showed his versatility in films like Spartacus in 1960, The Birds in 1963, and Cold Blood in 1967. On television, he appeared in Adventures of the Falcon, and even portrayed Rick Blaine in a 1955 adaptation of Casablanca. These performances secured his reputation as a versatile and skilled actor. Born in Des Moines, Iowa in 1914, McGraw grew up in Akron, Ohio. He worked various jobs as a young man before pursuing his passion for acting. After honing his craft on stage in New York, he transitioned to film, finding success in post-World War II Hollywood. His rugged looks and commanding presence made him a natural fit for the gritty, morally complex characters that defined the noir genre. Despite his professional success, McGraw faced personal challenges. He married Frida Choi Kit in 1938, but their marriage ended in 1968, partly due to his struggles with alcohol. In his later years, his health deteriorated, and he leaned on Mildred Black for support. These personal battles revealed a different side of McGraw, contrasting sharply with the invincible personas he portrayed on screen. McGraw's death remains a sad reminder of life's unpredictability. A simple accident in his home brought an abrupt end to a career and life that had impacted so many. It also raised questions about the circumstances of his passing. Could safer materials or quicker help have made a difference? While those questions remain unanswered, his legacy endures in his work and the lessons his story imparts. Charles McGraw's films continue to resonate with audiences, reminding us of his talent and the mark he left on Hollywood. His untimely death underscores the importance of safety and care in everyday moments. Though gone, McGraw's influence lives on, both in the art he helped shape and the lives he touched. It was March 17, 1999 in Winchelsea, East Sussex. Rodney Stephen Hull, a 63-year-old British comedian famous for his unpredictable puppet Emu, was at home preparing to watch a Champions League match between Manchester United and Inter Milan. Earlier that evening, Hull had attended the opening night of the West End show Animal Crackers in London with friends, including Joanne, the former Countess of Bradford, and her husband Richard. Although the night was lively, Hull had been preoccupied, frequently complaining about his TV reception. Hull had been struggling with poor signal quality for weeks, and he wanted to watch the game with his 19-year-old son, Oliver. During their outing, he joked about climbing onto his roof to fix the aerial. Joanne suggested it might be a quick solution, not knowing how that simple comment would later unfold. After returning home that stormy evening, Hull grew increasingly frustrated with the poor reception. Determined to fix it, he decided to climb onto the roof himself. It was something he'd done many times before, so he didn't hesitate. At around 8:20 p.m. during halftime, Hull set up a ladder outside. Despite the fierce winds and limited visibility, he climbed up to adjust the aerial. Oliver, who was inside, heard noises outside, a light thud followed by a heavier one. Concerned, he rushed out and called for his father. Receiving no response, he climbed up the roof but didn't find Hull there. Instead, he discovered his father lying motionless on the ground near the greenhouse. Alarmed, Oliver called emergency services and reached out to his mother, who lived in Australia, frantically telling her that his dad had fallen and he couldn't get a pulse. When paramedics arrived, they worked to stabilize Hull, but his injuries were severe. He was rushed to Conquest Hospital in Hastings, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The coroner's report confirmed that Hull's injuries from the fall were fatal. While there was speculation about whether he might have experienced a medical episode before falling, the investigation concluded that his death resulted from the impact. The news of Hull's passing shocked his fans and colleagues. Known for his chaotic humor, Hull had made unforgettable TV moments, especially through Emu's antics. One of his most famous incidents involved Emu attacking talk show host Michael Parkinson, a moment still fondly remembered. His sudden death marked the end of a unique chapter in British entertainment. Longtime friend Giles Brandreth later expressed guilt about Hull's accident. During a podcast, Brandreth recalled jokingly suggesting Hull climb the roof to fix the aerial. Though Brandreth wasn't present at the time, he felt his words might have contributed to Hull's decision. However, his recollection of events wasn't entirely accurate. The theater outing he referred to actually took place the night before the accident, and Joanne disputed Brandreth's version. According to her, it was she and her husband who had been with Hull that evening, not Brandreth. Oliver, too, had spoken about the regret he carried from that night. He had offered to climb the roof himself, but his father insisted on handling it. For Oliver, the memory remained a source of pain, though no one could have foreseen the tragic outcome. Rod Hull's funeral was a modest affair marked by his signature humor. At one point during the ceremony, as the coffin was brought in, a sound resembling Emu's beak echoed through the room, a fitting farewell for the comedian who brought joy and laughter to so many. Hull's story is a warning about the risks of everyday tasks and the unpredictability of life. That stormy night, Hull had done what he always did: take matters into his own hands. Unfortunately, the combination of bad weather and circumstances proved deadly. Even decades later, Hull's legacy endures through the laughter he shared with audiences and the unforgettable bond between him and his chaotic puppet Emu. While his passing was a heartbreaking loss, it also shows the importance of safety and how fragile life is. It was March 16, 2009, at the Mont Tremblant ski resort in Quebec, Canada. Natasha Richardson, a 45-year-old actress celebrated for her roles in The Parent Trap and on Broadway, was enjoying a vacation with her family. Although Natasha wasn't an experienced skier, she decided to take on an easy slope called Nansen, known for its gentle inclines and beginner-friendly terrain. She had an instructor with her to guide her down the hill. Around noon, Natasha fell while skiing and hit her head in the snow. At first, she seemed fine. Her instructor, concerned about the incident, contacted the ski patrol. They responded quickly, preparing an ambulance just in case. However, Natasha reassured everyone that she was unhurt and declined medical help. She signed a waiver and walked back to her hotel, which was only 300 yards away. An ambulance arrived but was dismissed since Natasha insisted she felt well. She even called her husband, actor Liam Neeson, who was in Toronto for a film shoot, to tell him about the fall. She assured him there was no cause for concern. About an hour after returning to her hotel, Natasha's condition changed. She developed a headache and showed signs of confusion. Concerned, her family called for an ambulance again around 3 p.m. When Natasha arrived at the hospital, her vital signs seemed stable, and she could breathe comfortably with assistance. However, her condition worsened rapidly. The hospital lacked the resources to handle her severe symptoms, prompting her transfer to a larger trauma center in Montreal, 55 miles away. Liam rushed to Montreal upon hearing the news. By the time he arrived, the situation had turned dire. Doctors informed him that Natasha had suffered a brain injury caused by internal bleeding. The pressure on her brain had become critical, leaving her unresponsive. This condition, known as an epidural hematoma, resulted from her fall on the slope. Heartbroken, Liam shared a final moment with his wife. He later recalled that he had told her she wasn't coming back from this, explaining that she had banged her head. He wasn't sure if she could hear him, but he knew that was the reality. Her family decided to bring her back to New York. On March 18, 2009, Natasha was flown to New York, where her family gathered to say goodbye. At Lenox Hill Hospital, her life support was turned off, and she passed away. Natasha's sudden passing deeply affected her family, friends, and fans worldwide. Her death raised awareness about the risks associated with skiing, even on beginner slopes. Natasha had not been wearing a helmet, which sparked conversations about safety measures. Though helmets aren't mandatory, this incident highlighted their importance. Experts noted that even with immediate medical attention, her injury might have been hard to detect early on, and the delay in specialized care likely worsened her condition. In the aftermath, Liam spoke about his grief, describing it as waves of instability. He leaned on his two sons, Michael and Daniel, for strength. Michael, only 14 at the time, later changed his surname to Richardson to honor his mother. He followed his parents' footsteps into acting, starring alongside Liam in the film Made in Italy, which he said helped him feel connected to Natasha. Daniel chose a different path, entering the business world and co-founding a tequila brand, Denada. Both sons have kept their mother's memory alive in their own unique ways. Natasha's legacy also lived on through her generosity. After her passing, her organs were donated, saving multiple lives. Liam expressed that she would have been proud of this act, calling it a beautiful continuation of her giving spirit. Natasha's family, including her mother, Vanessa Redgrave, and sister Jolie Richardson, stood by Liam and the boys during this painful time. Together, they found comfort in her memory, celebrating her life and contributions to the arts and her loved ones. Despite the years that have passed, questions linger about whether this tragedy could have been prevented. Would wearing a helmet have made a difference? Could immediate medical attention have changed the outcome? Unfortunately, the answers remain unknown. What's certain is that Natasha's passing is another example of how fragile life can be. Her family continues to honor her memory, carrying her love and legacy forward. It was November 12, 1981, in Santa Monica, California. William Holden, a 63-year-old celebrated actor, was living in a beachfront apartment. Known for his rugged charm and memorable roles, Holden's life came to a quiet and tragic end that went unnoticed for days. His passing wasn't dramatic, but stemmed from a series of unfortunate events that reflected his struggles. Born on April 17, 1918 in O'Fallon, Illinois, William Franklin Beadle Jr., later known as William Holden, rose to fame as one of Hollywood's most iconic stars. His early career began with the film Golden Boy in 1939, where his muscular build and charisma caught people's attention. However, he struggled with roles that often focused more on his looks than his acting skills. It wasn't until Sunset Boulevard in 1950 that Holden secured his legacy. His portrayal of Joe Gillis, a screenwriter entangled with a fading star, earned him critical acclaim and an Academy Award nomination. His career soared with Stalag 17 in 1953, which won him an Oscar, and other classics like The Bridge on the River Kwai in 1957 and The Wild Bunch in 1969. Despite this success, Holden's on-screen characters, often disillusioned and weary, mirrored his real-life struggles. Holden's personal life was marked by challenges. Behind the scenes, he battled alcohol dependency, a struggle that persisted throughout his life. His relationship with actress Stephanie Powers reflected his attempts to find stability, but he frequently fell back into his old habits. Over the years, he grew reclusive, withdrawing from the spotlight and distancing himself from those who cared about him. By the fall of 1981, Holden's life had become increasingly isolated. Though still respected for his work, he rarely appeared in public. Friends and colleagues knew about his struggles, but Holden preferred to deal with them alone. This tendency to isolate himself would have dire consequences. In the days leading up to his passing, Holden had been drinking heavily. On November 12th, after consuming several alcoholic drinks, he was in his apartment when he tripped over a rug and fell. The fall caused him to hit his head on the sharp edge of a bedside table, creating a deep wound. Despite the severity of his injury, Holden didn't seek medical help. He tried to stop the bleeding himself using tissues, but his efforts were unsuccessful. Likely due to impaired judgment, he underestimated the seriousness of his condition. Holden eventually passed out from the blood loss. Alone in his apartment, he succumbed to his injuries. His body wasn't discovered until nearly a week later, when the apartment manager checked on him and found him lifeless. The scene showed no signs of foul play. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as a fatal injury exacerbated by alcohol consumption. When the news broke, it shocked Hollywood. While his passing was unexpected, it wasn't entirely surprising to those who knew him. Holden had spent years battling his struggles, and his tendency to withdraw had left him isolated. His blood alcohol level at the time was 0.22, significantly above the legal limit, which had impaired his ability to act quickly or seek help. Despite the tragic circumstances, Holden's contributions to cinema remain celebrated. He appeared in over 70 films, leaving behind a legacy of iconic performances. His final moments, however, were a stark contrast to the fame and acclaim he had experienced during his career. After his passing, Holden's ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean, honoring his wishes. There were no formal funeral services, reflecting his private nature. Though his life ended quietly, his work continues to be remembered, securing his place as one of Hollywood's most versatile and accomplished actors. It was December 31st, 1997, in Aspen, Colorado. Michael Lemoyne Kennedy, the 39-year-old son of the late Senator Robert F. Kennedy, was spending New Year's Eve with his family. The Kennedys were enjoying their annual skiing tradition, a holiday routine that had brought them to Aspen for decades. However, the day ended in a devastating loss that added another chapter to the family's tragic history. Michael Kennedy, the sixth of 11 children, was no stranger to both public attention and personal tragedy. At just 10 years old, he lost his father to a violent assassination. Over the years, the Kennedy name became synonymous with both a legacy of public service and a string of heartbreaking losses. Despite these challenges, Michael forged his path as a lawyer, businessman, and activist, dedicating himself to causes like gun safety and providing heating oil to low-income families through Citizens Energy Corporation. However, 1997 had been a turbulent year for Michael. A scandal surfaced, revealing that he had been involved in an inappropriate relationship with a family babysitter, starting when she was just 14 years old. Although Michael passed polygraph tests denying illegal activity, the revelations led to his separation from his wife, Victoria, and caused tension within the Kennedy family. His brother, Joseph P. Kennedy II, even withdrew from a gubernatorial campaign due to the controversy. Despite these challenges, Michael remained committed to his public service work, though his personal life remained under scrutiny. On New Year's Eve, Michael joined his family for a skiing outing on Aspen Mountain. The Kennedys, known for their adventurous spirit, had developed a tradition of playing ski football, a game mixing skiing with tossing a football. While this was typically a lighthearted activity, it carried risks, especially on steep slopes. Earlier that day, the ski patrol had reportedly warned the family to halt the game due to safety concerns, but they continued playing. Around 4:15 p.m., while skiing down the Copper Bowl Run without a helmet, Michael lost control and collided with a tree. The impact caused severe head and neck injuries. Ski patrol members arrived quickly and began administering emergency care, including cardiac treatment and spinal immobilization. Despite their efforts, Michael was rushed to Aspen Valley Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 5:50 p.m. His passing was ruled an accident. The tragic loss of Michael Kennedy shocked his family and the public. His mother, Ethel Kennedy, who had already endured the loss of her husband and other family members, was deeply shaken. Friends described her as unable to move or speak upon hearing the news. Family members, including Kathy Lee Gifford, recounted how Ethel refused to leave Michael's side at the hospital, overcome by profound grief. The Kennedy family's history is marked by extraordinary achievements and relentless tragedy. Michael's death echoed the pain of past losses, including the assassinations of his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, in 1963, and his father in 1968. Other tragedies, such as David Kennedy's death in 1984, and the controversies surrounding William Candy Smith in the 1990s, compounded the family's struggles. Michael's passing was another painful reminder of how fragile life can be, even for a family as prominent as the Kennedys. Yet, those who knew him remembered his dedication to helping others. Despite his flaws, Michael left a legacy of service through his work with organizations advocating for public safety and energy assistance. Friends and colleagues described him as passionate, caring, and committed to making a difference. The sudden nature of Michael's death and the circumstances surrounding it left lingering questions. What if the game had been stopped earlier? Would he have survived if safety precautions had been taken? These questions remain unanswered, adding to the sorrow surrounding his loss. Michael Kennedy's life was a blend of promise, controversy, and service. His death, like so many before it in his family, underscored the immense challenges the Kennedys have faced over generations. For all their influence and resilience, they remain human, grappling with loss and grief like any other family. The tragic end to Michael's life is yet another chapter in the ongoing saga of America's most iconic political dynasty.